Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Joes of all ages, welcome to the main event of the evening. It's Talking Joe with Chief and Steve.
Yo! Yo, Joe! Yo!
Hey, it's the Chief DOG, joined by you.
That's Job 7.
Does not compute.
Hello, Chief. Dude, fine. Fantastic. It's bright and early in sunny Queensland. The sun is about to start streaming in over the palm trees. It's going to be an interesting time when I finally am podcasting with a shirt on. I believe winters here get nippy, but it's yet to rear its ugly head. How you doing, buddy?
Nice. Yes, not bad. Doing well over here in the UK. A little bit colder than what you've got there. My watch says 9 degrees, but I don't trust that. I think it's a bit less.
Indeed.
So in the loft, definitely.
Oof, frosty.
But,
what was the word I heard once upon a time? Baltic.
Baltic, yes.
Love
brass
that.
monkeys.
Been using it ever since. Oh, damn.
Baltic.
Why brass monkeys? I mean, I know we're getting stuck into our colloquialism section
Yes.
a little bit ahead of schedule, but brass monkeys?
It's supposed to be something like the weather's so cold you could freeze the balls off a brass monkey. And I guess a brass monkey was just like a brass statue of a monkey. But if it was so cold that even those balls on that brass statue would fall off.
Indeed. And
So,
a Beastie
there you
Boys song.
Yeah.
Brass monkey! That funky monkey!
Yeah. Strong. What have you been up to this week, son? Anything? Well, something, obviously.
Every week's the same, buddy. Very little. But, I mean, beaches and public areas are now open for, like, picnics and hiking and whatnot. I've been maximizing my beach time, I guess. Took Kim very reluctantly for a stroll along what they call Palaranda Beach, which is this nice strip of sand. It's nice to see the world out and about and playing again. So
Yeah. Why was she reluctant then?
she's not very outdoorsy, man.
Okay.
She doesn't like getting sand on her toes.
Okay.
She doesn't like getting mosquito bites. Like, you know, the world offers up all these terrors that her very kind of clinical existence does not agree with.
Yeah.
How about you, man? How's the week been?
Yes, not bad. What have I been doing? I've been catching up on the Last Dance, which is the Chicago Bulls Michael Jordan-centric ESPN documentary, which is on Netflix at the moment. It's like a 10-part series chronicling the final year. I think it was 97-98 when they won the final championship, the Chicago Bulls, and it's like all this unseen footage, which Michael Jordan has now given the okay to publish or to release.
So he had final cuts on this, man.
Well, I think there's lots of current sit-down face-to-faces that must have happened over the last sort of 6 months to a year, and then it's obviously interspliced with all this 30-year-old footage. No, not 30-year-old footage, about 23-year-old footage, something like that, I guess. I don't know. This was supposed to air during the NBA Finals series, which obviously hasn't happened because that sport is suspended. But I think he wanted to get his name back out there in the limelight a bit, I guess. But anyway, that's been really good. They're only releasing 2 episodes a week. Just finished number 6. So wait for the next 2 next week. And what else have I been doing? I went down a bit of a rabbit hole today. For another little project I was doing, I needed a quote from Faceman from the A-Team. And I ended up looking for quotes on YouTube, and I ended up going down a rabbit hole and ended up watching it was a 2006 or 2006 Channel 4 documentary with this comedian called Justin Lee Collins. It was called Bring Back the A-Team, where he set himself a mission to go over to the United States, try and track down all the cast members and get them all in a room together. Apart from George Papado, who's
Yeah.
obviously dead.
You can have trouble with George. Yeah.
But I found a quote early on in it, and then I just ended up watching the whole thing. I had seen it before when it aired on UK TV like 14 years ago, but I ended up watching the whole thing. That's why I was late to do my homework for this episode, because I was just ended up watching this A-Team thing. But
Chief, I'm curious. Face Man. I mean, obviously the most quotable character's got to be Mr. T, and then directly behind him, I suppose Hannibal would have, his famous "I love it when a plan comes together."
yes,
But what kind of quotable quotes did I'm blanking on the name.
Templeton Peck.
Yeah,
Face
Templeton Peck. Exactly.
Well, pretty much zero. It's only, but I say I needed a quote from him. It's because basically on one of the podcasts I do on the Out of Timers, the Three Stooges wrestling show, my mate Dave, when I text him, WhatsApp him, it auto-corrects Dave to Face.
No.
So I just started calling him Face Man, is his new moniker. And I mentioned that on the podcast, that I say, right, you are now Face Man. So I just wanted to put a snippet of some Face Man dialogue into the show.
Buddy, when you say my mate Dave, that phrase is such an LEGism.
Yeah.
My mate Dave.
Up in the Staines.
Booyakasha. So, I mean, that really dates me, but I mean, that's my cultural touchstone when you say me mate Dave.
That's good. Deep cut from S-Jubs.
You could go either way, Face Man or LEG.
But anyway, it sent me down that rabbit hole, and what I do need to do now is I need, more than life itself, to do a team complete rewatch of all the episodes every season.
Whew.
So that's on the back burner.
Yeah, that's big, man. And all those episodes just blur, don't they? Like it's typical of the time, the sort of syndicated 80s TV show, which just resets back to zero every episode.
That's it.
Yeah.
But yeah. Other than that, not been doing much really. Just watching movies, watching Clone Wars episodes, reading G.I. Joe comics. So yeah. But I am hungry. Normally it's you chirping in here with the hunger pangs. I say normally I eat my evening meal at 4:30 p.m, but I've saved it till 9:30 p.m. for this segment. So it's time for the Snack Police. Potato chips, crisps, biscuits and candy, washing them down with a whiskey or a brandy, chewy sweets, cookies, built around jerky, snacks running fair because we got them at our mercy. We're snackers, attackers, bad mother truckers, and we're eating all the crackers, munchers, crunchers, knock out snacks like we're heavyweight punchers. The Snack Police are in the his house. Right, I'm going first this week.
There's a piece of dead, dry meat staring me in the face. But
All right, okay.
You may indeed go first, Chief.
Okay, what I have got here is a homemade Cornish pasty, or as the packet would tell me, basically I bought a block of short crust pastry from the supermarket. So you have to roll it out and everything, but it's just pre-done block instead of having to make that pastry from scratch. The idea was, I've got rhubarb in the garden and we got some pears. The idea was to make a rhubarb and pear tart. But instead, I ended up making a rhubarb and pear crumble. And so I had this pastry left over, and I thought today, me and the kid, we can make, and there was a recipe on the back, and they were called Cornish chunkies, which is effectively a Cornish pasty. And a Cornish pasty, I don't know if this, we're probably into the colloquialisms again, so you're getting triple dosage, even quadruple dosage this week, listeners. A Cornish pasty is effectively short crust pastry. What you do is you roll it out into a circle, put your filling inside, and then just kind of fold it up and crimp the top. So,
nice.
And the filling we put in was diced potato, diced parsnip, some herbs, some spring onions out the garden, and some like fake soya bacon. And then
I was about to ask what that meat substitute was. Very clearly in the picture.
stick it in the oven, brush it with some soya milk, and here we go. Yeah. Really, really good.
Can't get that in any supermarket.
Oh, man. I'm putting up pictures and I'll send the
Easy now,
So
Chief.
yeah, that's it. I'll put the
Good enough
recipe
to
up.
die for.
Pretty much given the recipe, but I'm going on mute while you tell me about your meat.
Okay, so in addition to biltong, the other sort of dried meat delicacy from my country of origin is something called droevors, which is just a thin sausage, then hung and dried, typically has beef and mutton fat in it. It's got a good snap to it. Here's a piece. Yeah. But you're supposed to just stick it in your mouth, man. So, the problem with storing Drovos in North Queensland is that the climate is so hot, it would spoil if left outside the fridge. But unfortunately, putting it in the fridge gives it a drier state than it should ever be consumed in. So, I prefer my Drovos a little bit more moist than this, but hey, it's not bad. I'm certainly releasing a lot of like meaty flavor in my mouth. So yeah, for all you non-vegans out there, SJUB7 represents.
Yeah. Now, would you have consumed this particular snack at 6:22 a.m. back in your homestead of origin?
Buddy, any time is appropriate time for Drovos.
It's a 24/7 snack.
But to answer your question, no. 6:20 a.m. is for sleep. But hey, man, if you're say you're camping and the sun's come up by now and you can't sleep another wink and you're outside your tent, it's a very, very appropriate snack to reach for. Oh yeah.
Good. Right, we are both satisfied, and that means we should probably get onto some comic talk. It's comic talk, baby. Chief and Steve discussing like crazy. Larry Harmer riding these bad boys, making sense of the wackiest toys. Listen as we talk about story arcs, making noise louder than Junkyard Box, talking about character motivations and all the various G.I. Joe fun locations.
It's G.I. Joe time, baby.
Right, now let me see if I can find the right issue. Am I right in thinking we're on numbers 183 and 184? Because if we are not, I've read the wrong issues.
You're in luck, Chief.
Woohoo! Ding ding!
Hey! But if you do ever get it wrong, should we just like read whatever issue that you've read? We might even skip a few that way. Like, whoa!
Yeah, that's it.
Get to the finish line. Catch up with Mr. Harmer.
Listen, what issue is the latest issue that's just seen print? Do you know? Is it about 280, something like that?
I think 275 has just been given the go-ahead as coming out. Because the pencils down order has kind of echoed through the world of comic books. But I think I caught a news flash that Harmer is resuming work on 275.
Got it. Okay.
I could be wrong.
So if we're on 183 and 184, we've got approximately just under 100 issues to go. At 2 a week, so we've got another year's worth of material for this podcast.
Indeed. I mean, if we don't take too many detours like our Showtime Showly special.
Well, that was an additional extra.
Woo! Yeah, man.
So, yeah, there you
lucky,
go.
Lucky,
that was good.
Listeners.
Good times. I think people enjoyed that. So
I certainly did. I kind of, in retrospect, like while I was chewing through the audio, I was like, damn, I really should have asked him a few other things. Like, there was one section where he was talking about the controversial content that he was putting out and like how it was upsetting Hasbro and how John Barber had to kind of sweet talk the suits.
Yep.
I'm interested to know what exactly Hasbro had a problem with.
Hey, listen, man. When you think of those questions, note them down because we get that man back on for a second take.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
First on my mind.
That's it.
Covers, baby.
Quickly look at the covers. We just got the regular cover here by Ron Friends and Sal Buscema. And then you've got the retailer incentive from Larry. And what we've got here is Flint with Lady J kind of in wasp mode because she's shrunk down and sitting on his shoulder.
Tink, is that you?
Yeah.
I believe in fairies.
Yeah, nice. This seems to be following the trend from Ron Friends of covers which don't really mean anything.
No, and I'd go one further and to say, like, Lady J's choice of armament is very much informed by her cartoon appearances.
Okay.
I don't think she ever threw a power javelin, not once, in the comic book.
She did, because I think one of Chris's last episodes, I think I mentioned it, that she was using that power lance thing. And I think that was maybe once. In
Larry's run? Must have been.
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Okay, well then I take it back, because it's just not a weapon that I associate with her in the pages of the comic book. It's very much a Toon thing. Like, it was her only armament in the cartoon.
Right, okay. So what's Larry's pencils here? Is it Destro? Oh, Destro and the chess pieces.
Nice callback to 21. In fact, this artwork, I mean, it almost feels like something he could have, it could have made for one of the panels in issue 21.
Yeah, definitely. And then 184, we've got Road Pig is the small character here, and Zorana's in the background.
Yep, it's a nice flip, reversing the genders of the diminutive character.
Yep.
But also very kind of abstract, like, it's the characters involved in the story, but I don't know. There's no storyline being conveyed by the image itself. It's a very safe artwork. I mean, it's not bad. I think it's great. Zorana looks particularly cute. I don't know.
Yeah. And Road Pig looks pretty extreme in his pose and what he's about to do. If that is some guy's skull on the deck that he's about to crush, I mean, that is coming down with a force.
Oof. Brutal. I don't think we've ever seen a comic book graphic enough to demonstrate the kind of damage that a cinder block can do to the human body.
Yeah.
Funny books.
And then the retail incentive is that tunnel rat defusing a bomb as well?
Yes. And this is amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, Chief, this artwork is... man, I'm sorry it wasn't ever finished, but maybe it was meant to be. Maybe the finish would diminish it in some way, because I have noted before that, like, when faced with Larry Hama's pencils and then Herb Trimpe's finishes, Herb is amazing, but I wish Larry was able to finish his own artwork, because some of the details get lost, some of the intentions get lost. And this is incredible. He's got a block of composition C4, plastic explosive, with a detonator punched into the front of it. There's a 9-volt battery with the contact points lovingly replicated, wires running off the contacts into a timer, into the detonator. Tunnel Rat is doing some very detailed work. And we're seeing Tunnel Rat, who is Larry Hama's own avatar within the G.I. Joe roster, actually doing some EOD work, some ordnance disposal. And what you don't know at this stage, just looking at the cover, but what on retrospect becomes very evident, is the fact that this is the underside of a car. You can see the coil spring of the suspension of the car. I think that's the oil sump or something, whatever, there's some bolts. Like, it's very detailed work for just a kind of a breakdown. So hats off, Larry's done an excellent job there.
That would have been, like you say, as a finish inked piece, that would have been fantastic.
Very, very nice.
Right, so before we crack into the contents and we break open the egg, let's find out what happened last time on A Real American Hero. Darklon has escaped from the pit, G.I. Joe's main headquarters, but this is just part of a bigger plan. G.I. Joe allowed him to escape in order to track his activities and figure out his role in the disappearance of a nuclear triggering device from Castle Destro. Zorana, Road Pig and Pale Peony have set out to find the device as well. Meanwhile, Cobra Commander has decided to transplant Cobra's American headquarters from Brocker Beach to the west coast. Clutch and Rock and Roll follow the Cobra convoy to their new destination.
I wonder if it's kind of standard operating procedure for, like, a top secret military group. If you've failed to get any further information out of your captive, you just release them into the wild in order to monitor them. I suppose it could be. It's as good a tactic as any, but a dangerous one.
I'm sure they could have figured out how to get his helmet off, Darklon's helmet, and held him longer. Or maybe it was it was some sort of legislation that they weren't able to hold him longer for legal reasons.
So they had to turn him over to the international criminal courts.
Yeah, and they thought a better option, they wouldn't get anywhere that way, so the better option is to let him go, yeah.
Foxy writing, man. Larry's one step ahead of us.
Now then, this issue starts, and that synopsis has kind of told us that Cobra is up in sticks and moving to the west coast. Now, this does feel just a little bit like, okay, we need to freshen it up. Let's just move from one town to another. And I guess that's what it is. And interestingly, you see it's Northern California at the start and kind of a rundown, almost community area. And there's 3 kids breaking in and mucking about. And does this writing date Larry? Because he's got the kids saying, this is skeeving me out. And I thought all white folks looking the same was whack. So
I don't know. When was the last time you were down NorCal's side of the world, Chief?
true that, player.
True that. I don't know. But yeah, this was about 8 years ago. Was it dated for now, or was it dated for 2012, or was it always dated? As Showtime Shirley says, comic books are written in the eternal present, man. So
Yeah.
I guess it was never dated when these kids were saying it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just trying to stick up for them, man. Why do you think that it's a bit naff?
They do notice that all the guys look the same because, of course, they are Fred series Crimson Guardsmen.
Ha ha ha.
Yeah.
Once again, man, dubious as to the practical application of having an entire bus full of dudes in not only the same face, but dressed identically too. I mean,
Yeah.
huh?
Yeah.
And something else that had me scratching my head was like,
Yeah.
okay, his tank it comes in at under 10 tons. So
Okay.
a semi truck could carry his tank cross country, and the imp, which is the tank directly behind it, in the box. But
Yeah.
those ramps that they have his tank driving down, I'm just like, whoa, man! An entire tank's weight being carried on those.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know anything about stress tests and carrying capacity, but like, it just on the panel, it looks strange to me.
And also, if they've got 100 HISS tanks, does that mean there's 100 of these semi-trucks as well?
Yeah, big move, brother.
Quick shout out before we go any further. Obviously, these two issues written by Larry. We got art on both by S.L. Gallant, inks by Gary Erskine, and colours by Jay Brown, just to give shout outs there. These two issues combined very much felt movie-ish. They felt like almost like a Tom Clancy novel kind of thing. There's not an overly large amount of action, but there's a lot of strings being pulled and plots to keep up with and people running around behind the scenes, and it just felt that this could be adapted to a movie.
Indeed. Though we do get some action, the Chief. I mean,
We do, yes.
There's some full auto stuff happening in the next issue with all rock and roll and
of course.
Clutch. But this stuff, yeah, sure, it's setting up Cobra's new HQ. Love the sequences with the Fang helicopter catching those three kids in its spotlight.
Right, okay.
Because once again, that sort of blinding white technique used on the page to create a light source is incredible.
Yeah.
Sort of giving the Fang, instead of its machine gun armament in the front, it's got a great spotlight. And then I think we've all seen them, the sort of like chopper footage from like famous chases that they love showing off in the United States, where they kind of, the guy's exited the vehicle and he's now on foot, and you got the sort of top-down helicopter with the light. And it made me think of the fact that the engine roar of that helicopter is deafening without any onomatopoeia on the page. Would you agree?
Yeah, true.
You're seeing wind sweeping the trees. You're seeing bits of grass and leaves being kicked up, scrap paper.
It's a great contrast, those literal two panels next to each other. The first one is the view from the Fang pilot. Like you say, everything's dark, but he's got the spotlight on the three people who are kind of carrying, and there's wind blowing in that. And then, like you mentioned, the next panel, it's just completely silhouetted, because now you've got the view from the ground up to the chopper with that
Beautiful.
blinding light. And it's two great panels back to back.
Very cinematic. And as I say, like the sound of that Fang is very evident, even though they don't have a single word.
Yeah, very good, very good. And,
Nice.
And I've written down, so when I was kind of talking about the potential complexities from a plot point, I mean, it's fairly easy to follow what's going on, but just from overall where it's going. So you've got Cobra, who, like you say, are moving to the West Coast, but then you've got, and all these factions end up converging in the same place. So you've got the Emirate of Benzine, you've got Faroud, who is the general, isn't he, who used to be part of the Benzine army. Then you've got the Dreadnoks and Pale Peony, you've got the Joes, and you've got Destro, and you've got Darklon. So actually, all apart from Destro, all those other forces end up converging in Darklonia, because they've all got an agenda. Actually, no, Destro does, of course, because he breaks into the boardroom, and Tunnel Rat has foiled the plot with the bomber, which was supposed to kill Destro. Then Destro strolls into the boardroom with Faroud and Darklon, and then obviously that's going to play out in subsequent issues. but they're all there, and it's all about this I'm going to keep calling it Krypton. All about this Krypton device, which is able to remotely set off nuclear warheads. And yeah, look, I've talked quite a lot there, and I've probably even confused myself. But there's a lot of meat on the bones for this issue.
Did you take it as a given that the bomber was Zartan?
No, I did not think the bomber was Zartan.
Okay, yeah, I didn't either, but Zartan was using that as his cover. The guy with the cap, the sort of air conditioning repairman.
Okay, let me have a look, yep.
He morphs into Zartan when he meets up with Road Pig, Zorana, and Pale Peony.
Okay, so we're thinking Zartan's in bed with Darklon.
To try and eliminate Destro, yes.
Okay,
or,
right.
Alternatively, Zartan is playing his own angle, which is, let's score points with Cobra Commander, let's wipe out Destro.
Right, okay.
But yeah, it does seem like, yeah, he's very much, at this stage, working for Darklon. I don't know, it's a guy with a cap and a moustache. And that's either established as Zartan, or it could be someone completely different. Maybe Zartan based his look on.
Where's Zartan with the... Oh, what you're saying when Zartan appears with Zorana and Road Pig?
Yes.
You're saying that is potentially the same guy. Okay. Let me find
He's
that
wearing
bit.
a different
I
colour
thought,
shirt, but
yeah, I thought he
it's
was
the same guy.
I thought he was just playing like a security guard or something when he appeared there, not an air conditioning guy. Yeah, he's got a cop. He's got a hat on. He's appearing as a cop. Okay, but different uniform. I see what you're saying, but same tash and glasses. I think are the only distinguishing features which are the same. But okay, maybe it is. Well, you probably know that it is Zartan, but I'm reading these issues with not as much memory, and I'm making the assumption up to the end of issue 184 that is not Zartan. But
Okay, flick forward to page 20, and cap, moustache, blue shirt, talking to Darklon on the phone.
Yeah, I'm still saying that's not Zartan myself.
Okay,
but
gotcha.
But I'm happy to be wrong and find it a nice surprise if in future issues it does turn out to be Zartan.
Interesting. Yeah, well, I mean, it's not uncommon for Zartan to be playing all the angles.
Yeah.
Do you like Baroness with the corset and no Cobra symbol?
I prefer it with the Cobra symbol.
Yeah, design-wise, it just looks a bit less exciting. I mean, there's no visual, I don't know, rallying point, for lack of a better term. It's just like...
It's a simple addition, but it adds so much more than just being there for the sake of it, doesn't it? Like you say, it's like a focal point almost, rather than just a
that's the
bland,
word.
skin-tight black kind of suit. It just gives it more stature almost.
Yeah. It looks very, very plain, very, I don't know, old maid. Would it be out of place to put a Destro symbol there? I don't know.
Ooh.
The weird thing with Destro's symbol is it incorporates his head.
And his head's in her cleavage, as you're saying.
There you go.
Yeah.
Wahoo, hot dog.
Yeah. Now, I think I mentioned previously, is Larry rewriting Darklon as this kind of super intelligent master strategist, which we hadn't seen before? And again, we get something here which we haven't seen before. When he lands that Pythonized fighter back in Darklonia, he's greeted as if he's almost Cobra Commander from his troops. It's like he's getting out the thing and everyone's cheering him and, rallying round him as if he's this massive figurehead, much in the same way that Cobra Commander is for the Cobra troops. And I don't think Darklon had ever been portrayed in that vein before, really.
Well, let's not overlook the fact that during the classic G.I. Joe run, he had control of a small nation, named after himself.
I guess I couldn't see the wood for the trees there, yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's interesting that the people, or at least his sort of military leadership, are still so in love with him. I mean, it's been a number of years and he's been basically running the show in hiding. I don't know what that does to your kind of national sensibility. Like, how do the people connect with a leader who's leading from the shadows? But as far as his inner circle is concerned, they love the guy.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
Which is ironic because, flick 10 or so issues back and all their brothers were being massacred by the G.I. Joes.
That's it. It brings an answer to a question I had where surely if Darklon knows, we said there's that bit where he knows that they know that he knows, so if he's that intelligent, why hasn't he figured out that they've probably put a tracking bug on him? But he does actually mention it here as he's on the table, the Techno
with a Techno
Vipers.
Viper with
Yeah.
no Cobra symbol on his chest.
Yes, that's right, yeah.
I
Yeah.
like the use of actual troops that, established uniform types, but this is obviously meant to not be a Cobra Techno Viper. They just kind of take the uniform anyway and just,
Yeah,
I suppose,
exactly.
unpick the stitching on the Cobra symbol.
Yeah.
I've got a question about the Cobra Pythonized Conquest.
Okay, yes, shoot.
So we are now taken to believe that it is full on Wonder Woman invisible jet mode
Yes.
style of like stealth. It visually disappears. But are we also taking the fact that it has a vertical takeoff and landing capability?
Well, it
Must
looks like
do.
it does, because he's coming down the road, and then all of a sudden he's landed, and then, yeah. Well, I don't know.
It seems
It
to be
seems
hovering.
it seems to stop abruptly, and then you're right, the front wheel does appear to be off the ground, so maybe they have incorporated some VTOL in there as well, yeah.
Once again, when he lands in benzene,
Yep.
yeah, does that look like it's hovering to you?
It looks like it's coming down vertically, yes. So they have built
big
new
time.
tech into that, which
Bravo.
I'm going to guess is very difficult to modify a jet to do that. But anyway, I do want to call out some ninja bullshit. I think Duke is a ninja. I think Duke is a ninja because he has been able to spot that in the back of a truck, a junk truck, there's 3 BMX bikes, and he's noticed that there was no rust on them, the chains are cleaned. So that clearly signifies that there were 3 kids that got kidnapped and Cobra behind it.
Mm-hmm. Well, ninja bullshit perhaps, but I don't know, man.
Duke's bullshit.
Duke is the Deus Ex Machina. Like,
Yeah.
ain't nothing slipped past him.
That's it.
Shit.
You mentioned that Larry Hama incentive cover where Destro has got the chess pieces, and you said that could have been a panel ripped straight out of maybe issue 21 perhaps. But we do actually get that in this comic as well. We do get him whipping out the chessboard, and he's got all the pieces on here, and he has to explain to Baroness who Pale Peony is, etc. And so we get a bit more exposition about her background. Now, here's a quick question. I know you're not necessarily a big fan of characters that don't have action figures, and I forget who it was, but someone did point out that the Blue Ninjas did have figures of a kind. Now, Pale Peony, was she just a comic book creation, or
I'm going to go with yes. And I do think she has her origins in the Devil's Due Storm Shadow series.
Yes,
if I'm not
I
mistaken.
think-
that was also pointed out by a listener.
I think Dave Reese on the Facebook actually pointed that
There
out.
you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. Now again, I've got all those Devil's Due issues. Haven't read them in years and years, so cannot remember anything about them. So there you go. There's a spin-off special for us to do the Devil's Due stuff. But yeah, so
Gladly.
as of this moment in time, she has no action figure. Is that correct?
I don't think so, no. Though Destro's very good at keeping his chess pieces up to date. Not only has he got Pale Peony to put on the board, but also a Krytron.
Yes.
We now
Yes.
get to see exactly what this MacGuffin looks like.
Yep.
It seems to be like a cylinder of bullets, really, that you
Yes.
would use to sort of auto-load or reload a revolver.
Yeah. And also he's got, I think I said the General Faroud. It's actually Colonel Faroud, who's the head of the newly formed Republic of Benzene, and of course the Emir of Benzene. So he's got those clad in red figures. So all the pieces there, and he says, and Baroness says, what's the Joe's going to do? He just basically tips the box of Joe's onto the board.
Always.
Love it.
The agents of chaos, huh?
That's it. Love it. Love it.
Interesting. More ninja bullshit. Are we going to touch on old Storm Shadow meeting up with Demon Auntie?
Demon Granny. Yep.
Ah. So paying his respects to Billy. It's incredible how killed so offhand, unceremoniously is the word, but his death's reverberations are still being felt, which is testimony to, it's good writing. Larry doesn't kill his darlings lightly.
No.
It might happen, in the moment, but we're still mourning it.
Yeah. I do want to obviously point out that the Joe's involvement here, because they've got guys in Benzene as well, they've managed to get Dusty, Airtight and Tunnel Rat as boots on the ground, because they're under some EOD mission out there.
There we go. It's your man Airtight.
Yeah. You're still not a fan of him, are you, really?
It's nice to see him in his classic gear. And then when they're in their sort of mufti or their covert stuff, they still wear clothes that kind of accent the same features, shall we say. So his shirt has these kind of green strips. It's very like a Florida Keys kind of college shirt.
I think my favourite line from 184, my favourite line of dialogue is Cobra Commander and Mindbender are driving around in the first few pages in this convertible, and I like the fact that Cobra Commander's got the gear he wore when him and Destro escaped from the pit back in the 50s. The Marvel issues, like 55, I think it was,
Unmaskings.
That's it, Unmaskings. Yeah. And he's got that same fake tash, beret, and a kind of trench coat on. But when they get out of the car, Mindbender basically just strips off his shirt, and my favourite line is, "Nice to get back into my cape. Travelling in mufti is such an inconvenience." Incredible.
Yeah, I mean, they should have gone one step further and said, "Nice to hang my codpiece back in its rightful place."
Yeah.
Because, as you know, hey, he's got a heavy piece of tin.
That's it.
Damn. Oh, that is great. What do you make of the recurring motif of Clutch and rock and roll once again, at the mercy of Cobra Command?
It's a recurring trope, isn't it? And I don't know, is it getting old? But I think we mentioned this previously, or whether it was me and Chris, I can't remember. My memory is obviously so bad. But Larry had come on to the IDW series with a big gap from the Marvel series. How much memory he himself had. And actually, this is a good point, because before recording, the missus had this IQ program. Every year in the UK, the BBC does this IQ program for like an hour and a half where they test the nation's IQ, and they've got people in the studio doing tests. You can take the test online, etc. And literally before coming on, they put up a graph that showed problem solving, memory, spatial awareness, all those things. When you hit mid-30s, they all actually start to decline. So it's not like when you're 40, you're at your peak of mental prowess. It's before that, it's mid-30s. And in some instances, some of these things are actually late. Problem solving is actually late 20s, you're at your peak. A 40-year-old has the same problem solving capabilities as a 12-year-old, apparently.
I feel it coming, Chief. I think I must have hit my peak in my mid-20s, man.
But what I'm saying is, memory was obviously that's common sense that memory declines over time, but it declines at a much more rapid rate than people think. People think, okay, when you're in your 60s and 70s, they've started forgetting things, but it actually happens a lot sooner. When you start hitting 40, your memory actually starts failing you from then onwards. But with Larry, that big gap in between the Marvel and IDW series, maybe he kind of forgot how much he had previously used Clutch and rock and roll in these situations. I don't necessarily think totally, because maybe he's thinking, I know I use these guys, it'd be cool to do it as a callback almost, or an homage to when I previously did it.
Oh yeah, look, he definitely references their first capture by Cobra. On one of the final pages, I think it is in fact the final page, Mindbender is musing over the fact that he used the same operative under the brainwave scanner, and he wants to use Clutch again, using different scientific means to I suppose, extract information. So it's kind of like a test and a control group, essentially. You get to use the same guy twice. Incredible. So Larry definitely is cognizant and aware of the fact that this has all happened before. I just imagine why. Like, why is rock and roll and Clutch's kind of MO to be the undercover guys? I don't think they're necessarily the best men for the job. And they certainly have blown their cover already. They absolutely massacred an SUV of CGs in the last issue.
Yeah. Doesn't someone mention that they've not gone AWOL, but they've gone off script, because they were only supposed to trail that convoy, weren't they? And they've now intervened. And I'm pretty sure someone says it appears rock and roll and Clutch may have violated orders and entered Rancho Cobra.
Yeah, sure. They're definitely going, on their own means. Yeah, but what is their end game? Like, what was their plan?
Yeah, what was their plan exactly? I don't know. This is a heavily
take on the whole of Cobra,
heavily armed and heavily populated enemy installation, and there's two of them. They get these three kids, and this reminds me of issue 100, where they rescue the kids, and one of the kids, or two definitely, actually pick up a machine gun and start engaging the enemy in fire. And this was where, back in Millville, where Spirit and Mutt were there, they've got a ragtag band of youths or utes, and they kind of arm them up, and it was a bit heavy storytelling, but these youngsters waging war with these killing weapons and stuff, and the same thing happens here.
Oh yeah, except now it's informed by video game culture. Yeah. Like the kid that picks up the assault rifle, he's like, I've been trained on first-person shooters.
Yeah.
I don't know about that so much, but yeah, I suppose. I mean, it's becoming more and more realistic.
Yeah.
Actually loading your weapon. Jeez. My last note is that Destro has really shiny gloves, Chief.
When he lets the wrist rockets off.
He has a mirror shine in those gloves. Did you notice?
He does, yeah. Yeah, that is strong.
Like, you can see himself and Baroness reflected in... So it says to me that, like, not only is he wearing the beryllium steel on his face, but on his hands as well. I mean, that guy must have crazy grip strength because, like, he's going to work out all the time. I'm sure that stuff isn't as flexible as, like, latex.
No, can't be, surely.
No. But it certainly, it stops your hands from becoming toast, I guess.
Yeah. There's a bit I've written down here that I did want to mention. Someone says something, security wanks, and I'm not sure, that means the same thing in the States as it does in the UK. But I can't find the bit in the issue now. Who says it?
It's Dusty or perhaps Tunnel Rat talking about Colonel Faroud's guys.
Yeah. I found it. Looks like the security wanks are out in full force at this pop stand. So, yes.
Is that American reception of British colloquialism?
Yeah, that's definitely a colloquialism there in the UK. But anyway.
Maybe they didn't want to add the ERS because that's perhaps getting a little bit too graphic.
Yeah.
Do you think it works in that context? Would an American undercover guy say security wanks?
Mate, I don't know. I don't know what it means effectively from a US as a US word.
Well, clearly we need to get an American on this show, buddy.
Yeah,
we are, of course, talking about a real American hero. It's high time. Yeah.
That's true.
Would you ever consider 3 people?
Third time's the charm. No, your third time's the charm. You're the third guest host. 3 is the magic number.
No. I mean 3 people in the mix at once.
Don't know. Have you got someone in mind?
I don't know, buddy. I don't know. I'm just spinning my wheels here.
Spitballing.
But altogether, a fun set of issues. I mean, there's intrigue. There's certainly great characters going on. Bomb defusal, security
guards. Like that bomb defusal scene. That's quality.
Not so mad about Clutch and Rock and Roll trying to invade Rancho Cobra on their own, but
no.
Hey, we'll see where that leads. I mean, it led to the inevitable capture of pretty much half of them.
Yes. I had fun with these issues, and I am intrigued to see where it's going. So, if I was going to Yojo it, again, I'd give it probably, a mid-7, something like that. Mid to high 7, because I really enjoyed what was going on, but I think it's part of a larger storyline, so I'll see if it does dovetail into an ending or not before I Yojo the actual whole arc.
Indeedy.
Listen, we've talked about comics, but right now we need to talk about toys, and you're going to do that right now. Steve talks about toys, ho ho. Steve talks about G.I. Joe. He talks about all the toys from the comic book and the animated show. Steve talks about toys. Steve talks about toys. Steve talks about toys. Steve talks about toys.
Alright, Chiefy, let me throw you some images, buddy.
Here he goes, sending me the pics. Fortunately, one thing I did remember to do is charge my phone, because way too often I've been in the loft with 2% battery and no charger. Is it someone from this issue?
Oh, do you want to play a little guessing game?
Yeah.
Okay, well, before I hit send, who do you think I've selected?
If it's someone from this issue, I'm saying Tunnel Rat.
Very close.
Here's the picture. Hey, my man, airtight.
Buddy, you tell me this is one of your top 2 action figures.
I don't think I said top 2. I think I said top 2 of Hazardous Environment Troopers.
Okay, well, that's a little bit of a backpedal from what I assumed, which, he was up there with barbecues, like just action figures that set your imagination aflight. I was hoping
Okay.
we could get into that. But
Right.
shall we have a little read at the file card and see
Yes,
what
please.
what goodies that reveals to us? His specialty is hostile environment, codename Airtight, file name Schnur Kurt, primary military specialty CBR, chemical, biological, and radiological warfare. Secondary military specialty is ordnance. Nice stuff that go boom.
Yep.
Place of birth: New Haven, Connecticut, and his grade is E4. Kurt was the kid who could hold his breath the longest. He was also the kid who had the largest collection of plastic dinosaurs on the block. He was a weird kid who grew up an even stranger adult. It takes a mighty weird person to walk into a cloud of toxic gas strong enough to fell a mutant weightlifter cockroach wearing a protective suit built under contract for the government by the lowest bidder. Airtight is an unreformed practical joker. Sneezing powder, plastic bath, whoopee cushion, the whole bit. No prank is too low for him. You'd think that other Joes would hate his guts, but they don't. Because when the bad guys escalate the firefight and start playing dirty, it's old Airtight who suits up and wades into the thick of it. Hey, how many times does the word weird crop up in that first paragraph?
Yeah.
Clearly, what they were going for was like, this guy was Big Bang Theory level of like geekdom before that was a thing, before that was cool.
Yeah.
Which is great. I mean, we can all identify with that level of like nerdiness, I suppose, because we're all big nerds, except this is a big nerd who made the G.I. Joe bill for some reason.
Yeah.
I guess, he must have done his research. I always get a little bit antsy that guys with supposed knowledge on the team always rank so lowly. Like,
Right.
He's an E4, he's an enlisted man, but like, he's the guy out there diffusing dirty bombs, basically.
Yes. I have no reference point for rankings or gradings, so E4, where does it go from there?
Like an E5, I think, is a sergeant. Like an E4 is a corporal, if I'm not mistaken. Or an E5, I don't know. He's beneath sergeant, and like
Okay.
then you got sort of master sergeant, and that's sort of the top end of the enlisted ranks. But he's
Right,
kind of
okay.
in the middle. He's kind of where most Joes are at,
Yeah.
which they basically like just up from like privates, really.
Okay, interesting.
Like two pay grades up from privates, which isn't very high in the chain of command at all. But
No.
I guess that was the idea. Like, you wanted a team of guys on the front line. You didn't want troops that had desk duties. Basically, these are all the guys in the thick of the action, the infantrymen
Yeah.
and stuff.
Yeah. Now, one of the reasons why I think I liked this guy back in the day, and it didn't come up in conversation last week, but I love that file card art.
Ah, yes. Glad you got onto that. There's something very intriguing about the art, and this, I believe, is a Garrido original, so it is
Okay.
beautiful. But his accessory, I don't think had been defined at this point, because what you see him holding is a German paratrooper weapon,
Right.
FG-42,
Right.
which has been slightly modified to have that vacuum cleaner nozzle in the front, that dust buster.
Yeah.
But, I mean, the reference that Garrido is using is definitely an old German paratrooper weapon from the
Okay.
Second World War.
Right,
I think I
got it.
sent you a reference snap, and
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
I'm speaking mainly about the top weapon in that image, because it's got a very swept back pistol grip and a very distinctive buttstock, which has the sort of those ribbings.
Yeah,
And a kind of
yeah.
a very peaked top edge.
Like a shark fin almost, isn't it? Yeah.
Big time. The foregrip, which is made of wood, is also very, very distinctive in old Kurt Schnur's artwork.
Yeah. That's a good looking weapon. I like the look of it.
Well, I must say that artwork was misleading to me and so many kids. When you see this thing that looks very much like an automatic weapon, and then you take the accessory piece out of the package and you're like, hang on, what the hell is this?
He's got a vacuum cleaner. Yeah.
How did you use it in your playtime, Chief? Because this is a figure that I avoided like the plague, man. I saw him
Yeah.
hanging on pegs and I wanted nothing to do with him.
Yeah. That's a good question. I don't know. I want to suggest that I had him spraying some kind of biological agent from that gun.
So it was an offensive weapon.
Yeah.
Yeah, much more exciting. I mean, I think the more, I suppose, rational adult explanation is that it is a sniffer for detection of bad stuff, the sort of canary in a mine, but then can probably be used to dispose of it, because the accessory piece has the port for one of the standard G.I. Joe black hoses, which then runs to the back of the pack, which the file or the card says is a compressor. I presume that means it can then suck up and compress bad stuff for disposal at a later stage. But what's interesting about the backpack, and this is such a nice touch, is that it has a very distinctive hose that you attach to a C-clip at the top of it, which then gives airtight, a sort of direct air supply. I don't think it's assumed that he's sucking on the exact same toxic fumes that he's sucking up with the sniffer. No, that would be bad. Unless, like, you got really sci-fi and that somehow he was able to recycle the stuff into breathable air.
Yes.
That would be some pretty sophisticated gear to have on his backpack.
I think one of the things I didn't like about the figure was that hose was just too long.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
The hose that runs from the weapon or the sniffer into the backpack.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. It just made posing and setting up just a little bit more tricky.
You know what? I completely ignored immediately all of those black hoses, because I also found them to be a bit cumbersome. Of course, they just don't have the same flex that a hose at the accurate scale would have. You know, so it always would be too rigid and would kind of like stand out from the figure in ways that a hose wouldn't naturally kind of sling. Yeah. So yeah, I just always assumed it to be there without actually adding it. I was one of those kids. Yeah. I had a Hydro Viper that sort of could breathe by more internal pipings.
Yeah. You mentioned the Hector Garrido card art that was modelled on that weapon with the vacuum cleaner nozzle or on the end, but then you've also sent me pictures of the I think this is Herb Trimpe art with airtight from an Action Force intelligence profile, and here he's got that gun without the vacuum cleaner dustbuster, and it does look like he's been using the reference photo for that, you know, that machine gun.
It's definitely a machine gun in Trimpe's artwork. This is from the G.I. Joe Order of Battle.
Right.
Yeah, man. Which also gives his name a hyphen. He's airtight in in that Order of Battle.
Yeah, right.
But apart from that, it just kind of expounds the details a little bit more. What is interesting to note is that artwork then gets reversed by the Action Force guys.
Yeah.
In their intelligence profile, which I suppose you'd get in the weeklies, the Action Force weeklies.
That's right. Yeah, I've got that. Yep.
So it resets his birthplace to West Germany, in Munich.
Yeah, that's it. Yep. They did that with a lot of the characters in these Action Force intelligence profiles. They gave a vast percentage of them European birthplaces. And
a cool detail that they've added, or seen fit to add, is that by growing up in West Germany, he served prior to Action Force in the German GSG-9, which is like a specialized anti-terrorist task force.
Okay.
I think Germany formed that after the massacre of the Israeli Olympic team in the
Munich.
70s.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Wow, then huge relevance to his birthplace.
Yeah.
But it's nice to know that, at least in the Action Force reset of the character, that he earned his stripes in a sort of an intervention team, a sort of anti-terrorist team, before he got interested in chemical, biological, and radiological warfare, or NBC warfare, which is, I suppose, the term of that era. I forget what it is now. I think maybe it is now NBC, but CBR was quickly phased out as the term.
Okay.
All of that information, I have to credit HCC788. I always shamelessly watch his reviews prior to these Toy Talk sections, and HCC is a font of wisdom. If you don't know his stuff and you are interested in action figure reviews, the man is very comprehensive and can be found on YouTube. He's reviewed pretty much all the heavy hitters from the classic 82 to 94 run, including the vehicles.
Good.
Yeah, man.
I do quickly want to touch on the first two pics you sent me. Now, this is an updated version of the figure.
Alright, starting in 2008, there was a direct-to-consumer edition, which is basically you would buy this action figure directly from Hasbro and have it mail ordered to you. It was not available at retail. I think that was a great idea. I wish they would do that more. But I think this was a late addition to that wave. And so he was then sold as an exclusive in the, I'm going to say, the JoeCon of that year. I'm not so hot on those facts. I must say, Chris Diagnostic 80, Mr. Boots on the ground, he was probably the man to ask as to what the release was like back then.
Yep.
But it's not bad. He finally has a removable helmet.
Yeah. And a gun.
And a gun. Very science fiction. But I must say, everything was trumped by the 2011 release, I'm going to say. Version 3 of Airtight on yojo.com, which is the Airtight that we've all been waiting for. He has a removable helmet. He has exchangeable gear. The vest, the green portion of his uniform is removable, so you can basically have him in a sort of a bulky hazmat suit without any of the additional adornments. It is incredible. I'd say it's the ultimate expression of an Airtight figure, and you finally get to see his face. Okay, you can't remove the hazmat kind of hood, but you can remove the helmets. The glass or the faceplate finally has an opaque section, which was always a bit of a tease on the original. You know, you're always meant to assume that he's got a sort of glass front. What is your opinion on the non-removable helmet with the black speed stripes?
I don't mind it. I don't mind it. You know, from back in the day, I think that was something I was used to with, we previously mentioned Barbecue and the Cobra Troopers, any of the Vipers. It was just, okay, fine, that's a non-removable helmets, and I was absolutely fine with it.
I didn't have a problem with non-removable helmets with Joes, because, I mean, my first Joes were like Mainframe and Lifeline. They all had hats or helmets, which was a practical thing to have on the battlefield. You know, you want to protect your noggin.
Yeah.
But when it comes to something as concealing as Airtights, like full helmets, you know, with face mask, it does distance you from the character and unfortunately limits his application. Like, I could never, and it kind of cheapens the action figure's adaptability for me. And that's why I think I say I steered clear from him, because I could never get a handle on who this guy was. There was never any kind of reveal. He could never kind of be walking around base because he was always wearing the full helmet.
Yeah,
which I think is unfortunate. And like, yeah, to this day, I still haven't totally warmed to him. But yeah, man, it's great that you were a fan back in the day. So different strokes for different folks.
That was pretty much not solely, but that was guided by his Action Force appearances. I think he had more appearances in that. He wasn't in every issue, but more appearances in that, obviously, than in the Real American Hero stuff. And I think I gravitated towards any of the characters that were featured in the Action Force comic, because that was my first and primary introduction to G.I. Joe.
Yeah,
from in a comic format.
He tended to be more on model in Action Force as well. Like, they'd use him on mission with the helmet.
Correct.
Whereas, like, his first appearance in the G.I. Joe comic in issue 44, I don't think he ever wore his helmet. I mean, if he had wore his helmet, he probably would have been impervious to the sleeper bombs. Yeah, you know, the spores that that knock out the Joe team in that issue.
That's it. That feature in Transformers vs. G.I. Joe, obviously.
Exactly, man. Nice. If you haven't watched our episode with Showtime Shirley, or listened to our episode with Showtime Shirley, give it a spin, listeners.
Give it a spin. Listen, educated, as always, is the chief from this segment, but now it's time to go from education to confusion, because it's time for Commonwealth colloquialisms, aka over egg in the pudding. We got a pudding. We're gonna over-egg that pudding. Ain't got no criticisms. We got some Commonwealth colloquialisms. Pudding.
Ah, Chief. Right. Very timeous. Yes. If I was to talk about snags in Australia...
Yes.
We're going to get some snags.
Yes.
What would I be talking about?
You're probably going to be barbecuing sausages.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, I failed. Failed to confuse the chief. Okay, are snags... Is that something that you would say in the British Isle?
No, not at all. Not at all. It's only because my auntie, who I spoke to this morning, lives in Australia, and she has, for the last however long, 30 years, always referenced them as snags. So
Inside edge.
yes.
All right. How about you?
So me, I'm gonna say this word, and then I'm gonna use it in a sentence. So narked. Do you want to put it in a sentence?
Not a reference to the video game. Oh, is it like a bust? Like the cops have just raided you?
No, it's not. It's Narked. Narked. If I told
give me the
you
sentence.
I was knocked off.
Like hacked off, pissed off.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, knocked.
Yeah.
Jeez. Any idea like what it's derived from?
Zero, and I could not be bothered
Lovely.
to Google it. So if anyone wants to Google it or tell me, feel free to put it in the comments of any of our social media posts.
I'm very tickled that just tonight you used bats in the cave with Evelyn.
I did.
Yeah, man. Great stuff.
She's into it now. I tried explaining schnollies to her, but that did not go down well. And then I switched it up to bats in the cave. So
yeah, off-air listeners, I don't think this is a colloquialism necessarily, but it's a phrase for having any boogers in your nose, to have bats in the cave. Little euphemism there.
Okay. Oh, right, yes, because we talked about that off-air, didn't we? Yeah.
Indeed.
So proper confusing people then.
Something that's very peculiar to my region in particular, if you say the word awe, it is like a catch-all. It's like, it means great. It's like asking a question, how are you? It's
Right.
like, awe masakant, which means, how's it going? My mother's child, which is like
Right.
a term of endearment.
Okay.
But yeah, in Cape Townian slang, awe is like, if you use that as your greeting, you're definitely a local boy.
Okay. Right. Now, what's happened there is you've given the South African colloquialism, but you did not give me an option to guess.
Oh shit, son. Sorry. I wanted to roll in strong, man.
That's it. You're rolling in hot and heavy there. I like it. It's good.
All right. So when you see me in the street, what are you gonna say?
Give it to me one more time.
Away.
Away.
Perfect. I
There you
like
go.
your inflection, Chief. You got a very musical ear. Very, very good.
Thank you. So there'll be more confusion next week. I've actually thought of a new one that I used today. So let me just get a pen quickly. I've got a post-it
Save
note.
it up.
Post-it note that I'm going to write down there. That is my one for next week. Stick it on the monitor there so I will not forget. So all good times for the Chief. Less homework to do there. But we did give the listeners homework because now it's time for We Ask You a Question. We Ask You a Question. Listeners respond. Chief gets the words when we ask you a question.
Genius.
Yeah, I completely forgot what I was doing again there.
Freestyling it, Chief. Freestyling it.
We asked you the question of what is your favourite one-shot or self-contained story in the Real American Hero or Special Missions run of issues.
I must say, your buddy Mark Seddon has set the tone for this question very beautifully.
Okay.
Because on Facebook,
Yep.
he said that the top 3 have got to be 21,
Yep.
34,
Yep.
and yearbook number 2.
Okay.
The real question is, what is number 4 on the list? Do you want to hazard a guess at how the numbers broke down, Chief?
What would I hazard a guess as the fourth one? I mean, I've glanced a cursory eye over the lists, but I think we're going to find a wide and varied smattering of issues for that fourth spot. But I think those top 3 are probably going to be the most votes.
By a long shot. By a long
Okay.
shot. It seems to then kind of really devolve to personal taste.
Okay.
Which is great. A nice widespread, which just says to me that a lot of Harmer's kind of one-shot efforts were taken up with a lot of love. And it does come down to perhaps, your own reception of these things, like what nostalgia it drums up in you, what joy you had with those stories, reading them for the first time, and perhaps because this does span a long period of history, like this could even have informed the way you enjoyed your action figures and your playtimes.
Yeah.
So that is exciting to me, and very heartwarming responses, man. Like, I could just rattle off numbers if that means anything to anyone. Issue 51, issue 115, counting Coup, issue 155, which was the end of the initial A Real American Hero run, which is a great self-contained story, very poignant, great poetry from Harmer the Man. We had issues 3, 5, and 8 from the early days, which were typically all one-shots at that stage. There wasn't any overarching continuity yet. Issue 11, which I know is one of Ben's favorites. Issue 55, the Unmaskings issue, though I would argue that maybe that was set into a larger continuity than a one-shot. Yep. But yeah, I suppose taken on its own, it was an exciting issue for this particular respondent. Issue 82, Weeding Out, which is a great focus for the 1988 G.I. Joes and gives us a glimpse of the final stage of G.I. Joe selection process.
Yep.
Fantastic. Though I always wondered what the hell Budo was doing running around with his sword. I mean...
I'll tell you what he's doing. I'll tell you what he's doing. He's doing selling toys is what he's doing.
Big time. Special Missions number 2, where your man Airtight is defusing the Nazi
on the ice shelf
bomber.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep. Oh, correct. So good. Words of Honor. Great sort of double play. Fantastic. Gotta say it, Diagnostic 80 coming in strong with SFX.
Yes, 85.
The other silent issue.
Yes.
Yeah. Ironically, he was the only one who placed that on top.
Well, he will be until we come to my list.
Oh my goodness. You've got a list, Chief. Jeez.
Yeah, I've got a list.
98, The Return of Cobra Commander was in there.
Yep.
And then, oh gosh, what else? 31, All Fall Down. Though you've disqualified that, I'm afraid.
I have that. So I've got a Every Joe story ever. I think I sent you a link. I'm not sure if you've had a chance to have a look at it yet. So I have been compiling, as listeners might know, every time I get a self-contained arc or single issue, I'll rank it on an ever growing list, and I will put out the link to this. I think I've said that many times. I'm not sure if I have done, but I have that issue. What did he say? He said 31, didn't he? So I have it as 31 to 33, and I have that ranked as my number 7th all-time G.I. Joe story.
Now, I would typically agree with you, and I have agreed with you up until this very moment of recording, when I recall that 31 wasn't that Rod Wiggum art, and then they switch. Don't they switch to Springer?
Yes.
So, at least on the art chores alone, it feels like it's kind of a standalone. And it's kind of confined to the cabin, and there's, it ends quite definitively, doesn't it?
It does. Well, the next issue is where the Softmaster turns up, I think, isn't it? And he's dealing with the fallout of the characters involved in the previous issue.
But if you stopped reading after 31, you'd be like, oh my goodness. Okay, Snake Eyes dead, Firefly dead,
but you'd need
Destro
to know what happened
dead.
next. I don't know. Maybe.
Okay, well, it could go either way, but I'm seeing merits for it being a standalone. It certainly is beautifully illustrated and worthy of mention in this list. 57 got 2 votes, and that's Strange Bedfellows.
Yes.
I can only imagine that's a UK contingent voting that in, because it was the appearance of the British SAS and kind of
I've got that,
Return to Castle Destro.
I've got that number 43 on my list of best ever story arcs. So
that seems pretty low, really.
That's a 7. I gave it 7 out of 10.
Look, I also see it somewhere in the middle. It's not a particular standout for me, but it was a standout for 2 respondents.
7's not the middle. 7's above average.
Yeah, man, but this is stuff that really fires our life. Like, I don't know. I think, if it's not cracking an 8, then don't waste your time.
Yeah. Okay.
And then my man Jim Godfrey comes in with Special Missions 3 and Special Missions 8.
Okay, interesting.
Very strong entries.
Yep.
3 is a strange one. It has the least G.I. Joe-ish cover with a blue van. You'd have to really examine it quite closely to see that these are in fact G.I. Joes. The Stalker's kind of busting out the side with a machine gun. whoever's on the top. I think it's Leatherneck, maybe.
Yep.
But it is a very poignant story, and Jim rightfully points out that like it ends with the death of a very tragic character, and that's a kind of a level of emotional high that you don't get with perhaps a more technically neat, self-contained issue like the Silent Issue.
Yep,
So he would wager that as a finer bit of writing than the Silent Issue, and I think there's merit to his point.
Okay. Great responses from everyone as usual. Really appreciate that, and it's really nice to see a variety of issues being mentioned. So, like you said, people can find different merits in different things that others can't. So I'm really, really buoyed by that. Now, I am going to bore people by giving you my rundown.
We gotta have it, Chiefy.
So
I'm looking forward to it, man.
I'm going to give you the top 10, and I'm also going to give you 5 honourable mentions. So I'm actually going to just give you my top 15. So
Incredible. Get a notepad, listeners.
So in 15th spot, I have... Let me offend people to start with. Let's just get that out of the way. My list has... Now, it's not been updated for quite some time. I've only actually ranked up to issue 143. So I need to go back through all the old episodes of Talking Joe and dig out what I yo-joed stories from 144 up to whatever we are now, 184, and put these on the list. So just bear in mind I'm only got to 143. And that equates...
Do you really... Does this stuff rank in that stuff?
No, just for my own sanity, I just have to make it complete. But of those 143 issues, that for me breaks down as 100 story entries. So obviously we've got multi-part stories within that. So just to let you know, the list is 1 to 100 at the moment, which contains 143 issues in total. And to offend people, I'm going to tell you that the Yearbook 2 story ranks at 80th on my list.
Whew.
So there you go.
Did not like the art.
Didn't mind the art. I think Michael Golden's a very good artist, but it just overall didn't do much for me.
True. I mean, the Joes only make an appearance right at the end.
Yeah.
So if you're not a fan of like the October Guard, for instance, I mean, they definitely are the stars of the show.
Yeah.
Then, yeah, it wouldn't.
Anyway, so here's 15th place. I've got Special Missions 13, Washout. I've got absolutely no idea what happens in that. I cannot remember. Oh no, because then I say I've only got 143 issues, but I haven't, because I've got issue 154, Flying the Unfriendly Skies, which is a roadblock doing a kind of Passenger 57.
Dude, Washout is when what's his name? Mangler.
Ah, yes.
Killed.
Okay, fine. Yeah.
Damn, man.
Then I go to 13th on my list is Special Missions 12, Air Show, which is
interesting.
Where they go to an air show and Firefly steals the... What does he steal?
The Vector jet.
That's it, the
and
Vector.
Somehow Maverick is able to catch up to him in a crop duster. Oh,
That's it.
man.
You got it.
Really?
Yeah. Any kind of air combat I love. Then we go to issue 50 of Real American Hero, had a Special Missions preview story called Best Defense, where Beachhead and some others infiltrate a plane which has been hijacked.
Okay.
Then
nice.
Then I go...
Executive decision.
Yeah, then I go to issue 22, Like Chimney Sweepers Come to Dust, which is it's a downtime issue where everyone's in the pit kind of rebuilding it, and Gung Ho, I think, is on someone's shoulders banging in nails with his hand. Love that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man.
Then we go to the top 10. Issue 11, The Pipeline Ploy, which is the introduction of Destro.
Mm-hmm.
Then we go to issue 80, Rolling Thunder, which is the introduction of the Rolling Thunder.
Which is definitely a one-shot. Absolutely.
Yes.
I know.
Then we go to issue 84, Converging Destinies, which is the Zartan kind of origin piece. Then we go to Special Missions 8, Ambush, which is Jim's selection.
Oh, nice.
Then we come to issue 24, The Commander Escapes, which is the one where they capture Cobra Commander, he's on the mountaintop, and he escapes. This has got fantastic Russ Heath art.
Yeah, man. Does set itself apart. The Baroness looks better than ever in that issue. Gee whiz.
Then we come to top 5, Special Missions issue 1, That Sinking Feeling.
Interesting.
So that's where you've got October Guard, you've got Joe's, and you've got Cobra, all kind of converging.
Loads of intrigue, and I love Duke's line at the end, or was it Hawk? who says it's the perfect mission because the Joes didn't fire a shot.
That's it. Top 4. Special Missions, issue 23, Scoop. Can't remember what happens in that one. But
It's Scoop's induction into sort of a covert mission. It's very heavy on the like the protocols. Like they're kind of they're effectively vicariously teaching the reader.
Yes.
Like Larry's telling them all about standard operating procedures, like don't ever leave a drop of water in your canteen because it'll be sloshing around and give you away, stuff like that.
Has it got Stalker in it and they're in the jungle?
Yeah. Yeah, starts off on the deck of the USS Flag. They're kind of testing their weapons.
There's a kid with a water buffalo. Is that the one? Don't know.
No, that's the earlier one.
Okay.
So it's similar to issue 8, I think it was.
Right, okay. Yes.
Special Missions 8.
Then I go for issue 85, SFX, as my number 3 spot, which is the second silent issue. Then I go for Silent Interlude, and my top spot is Shakedown, which I think was a lot of people's top choices, especially if you excluded the silent issue.
Yep. Yeah, 11 people picked 21, which is the top dog. 34, which is Shakedown, got 9 respondents putting it in their listings, and then Yearbook 2 got 5 of the people that responded.
Yeah. I've got a fantastic piece of original art from a guy called Keith Burns, who was the artist on Garth Ennis's The Boys book alongside John McCrea, and he's didn't do much comic work. He did do that really good series with Garth Ennis, the Johnny Red 8-issue miniseries, which I don't know if you've read that, about the pilot Johnny Red. Really, really good. But
I know Johnny Red, but I don't know the 8-issue series.
So there's a recent one, maybe in the last sort of 5 years.
Nice.
So check that out. Most definitely check that out. Really, really good. But he's kind of more gone into now military fine art. And he actually, before he did that, I got a commission from him. I took a scene from issue 34 Shakedown, and he added a few nice little extras in of Hardmaster driving a car with Candy and Chief on a number plate. And so I'm going to post that up, but that's kind of one of my favourite pieces of original art that I own. But yeah.
I'm really looking forward to seeing that.
What about yourself?
It's going to come out of left field, but I cannot deny that it is my favourites to this day. Special Missions issue number 20.
Okay, let me just plug that into my chart. Control F, Special 20. Let's see.
It's going to break your mind, Chief. But this was my most played out scenario with my toys because I owned the Cobra Wolf. And I owned a Tiger Sting, which stood in for the Snowcat. But I regard issue 20 of Special Missions as Shakedown for the Snowcat and Wolf.
Okay, interesting.
Plus a third faction in the October Guard. I love this issue because the action is very centered around the capabilities of the vehicles. And I love G.I. Joe action figures, but for me it's always been the vehicles that have been the draw card. So anytime you're working in actual technical detail when it comes to the hardware, I'm all ears, man. Particularly technical detail that I could then have injected into my playtimes. And Snowblind was such an issue. I loved the idea of being caught in a whiteout. And not being able to see, 100 meters in front of you, but being forced to fight in those conditions. It made for a very tense land battle, which kind of feels to me like submarine warfare. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
Very strategic. They're using their infrared scanners all the time to try and catch the heat signature of the enemy vehicles. I love this issue intensely, Chief.
Yeah, I've got it listed, ranked as my 67th favourite G.I. Joe story of all time.
Well, what do you know, Chief? I must say, when I was listening to you and Chris rate and review this issue, I was like,
you were fuming.
I was screaming into my radio, buddy.
Where did he put it? I'm just trying to see where he put it. He put it, he gave it 7 out of 10. I'll give it 7 out of 10, man. So that, for the Chief, 7 out of 10 is good. But I know you want to give it 10 out of 10. But anyway.
Yeah, It's a solid 10.
Yeah,
Nothing
yeah.
but.
Good stuff.
I think that's all we have on the agenda tonight.
Good
or
stuff.
Today.
Yep, there'll be more
This morning.
questions next week. If you want to check out what we're posting, I'm assuming that most people listening are checking out some of the socials, but if you're not, you can find us on Talking_Joe on Twitter. You can find us on Talking Joe Comics on Instagram, and you can find us on Talking Joe at G.I. Joe Podcast on the Facebook. Where can the good people find your work, sir?
Typically, in any place that you find Talking Joe, I will be monitoring those feeds so you can call me out. But if you really want to have a private word, if there's something I've done to offend you, if there's something I've done that demands your praise, you can get hold of me at arealsouthafricanhero@gmail.com.
Yes. I do just want to do a quick amendment to the previous segment because I forgot that Sam Myers had sent us an email, and because he's not on the socials at the moment, but he says 21 is a triumph of storytelling, but he would like to say issue 26, but I'm saying that's the first part of a two-part Snake Eyes origin, so we can't have that. So then he says honourable mentions 34, yes, 85, yes, 45, which I have on my list as the start of the Cobra Island shenanigans arc, 45 to 48, so I'm going to disqualify that. Special Missions 5, Special Missions 13 and Special Missions 8. So Sam, I think I agree with you on most of those, but good stuff.
Chief, Judge, Jury, Executioner. I can tell you're a Dread fan. Alright, Chiefy, I will check in with you a week from now, my brother.
Yes, my friend, we will, with all that said and done, we will see you down the road.
Yo, Joe!
Yo, Joe!